Welcome back, Challenger fans. We're sticking around for one final tiebreaker game, this one to determine the playoff seeding between Gold Coin United and Tempo Storm, who are currently tied for second place.
Yeah, both teams are coming off a 2-0. Tempo Storm defeated Delta Fox earlier in the night, and Gold Coin United beat Team Gates in the first series. So they've had to wait around a little while. Might be a little cold, maybe might be a little slow starting out. Gold Coin United did win the coin toss, so they chose the blue side.
Yeah, so that means that there's going to be them starting on the blue side. So let's get a refresher on the lineups. Starting with that blue side, it's going to be Gold Coin United. In case you didn't know, it's Solo in the top lane, Santorin in the jungle, Phoenix in the mid lane, and their bottom lane duo of Mash and Madlight.
And for the second time tonight, on the other side of the rift, Tempo Storm. In the top lane, it's Quas, jungle, Sentinel, mid lane, Hatrix, and in the bot lane, it's Freeze and Sheep.
Both of these teams you mentioned already taking 2-0s tonight against their respective opponents coming into the last week of the Challenger Series. Both of these teams started off tied for second place. They're ending up that way now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little surprising that despite what could have happened throughout the course of this series, ends up just being the same. You know, there's so many possibilities tonight. We're like, what can happen? There's so many options. And then it's like, it's kind of what it looked like.
We could have had three-way ties. We could have had two different tiebreakers. We could have had so much stuff. And in the end, it's just a tie between, well, two teams that we thought were going to be doing extremely well. Gold Coin United was kind of the team that everybody had pegged for being at the top of the Challenger Series this split. Didn't pan out that way. They're here fighting against Tempo Storm, who, you know, for second place, that's where people thought they might wind up.
Yeah, I mean, Tempo Storm was definitely a little hard to put your finger on exactly what was going to happen. A lot of the members were players who had kind of not ended their careers in the LCS on the highest note. So there's a little bit of a question mark about, you know, how are they actually going to hold up, and how are they going to synergize together? Whereas on the flip side with Gold Coin United, a lot of these guys had a lot better in quotes, you know, careers. I mean, you look at Mad Life and you say, oh my God, this guy's great. Phoenix, despite some of his troubles in the LCS, was consistently individually a top 3, top 4 mid laner for North American scene. So you look at that and you say, wow, this team should be really powerful. But then they were mostly going 1-1 over the course of the year. So a little. Not quite what we expected out of both these teams.
And while Gold Coin United has definitely had some slower pace play, they are extremely methodical in the way they creep up vision control, wait for the picks to happen, and then try to take over games. They've had a little lackadaisical dragon control in the game specifically tonight, but they are very, very set in the way they play the game.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that maybe we're overly critical of Gold Coin United at times, because if they want to play that slow, methodical style where they focus more on not making mistakes over expanding their lead as fast as possible, that is two different ways to try and play out that mid-game. So you can't necessarily say, oh, they're not playing this right, because they're more focused on not throwing the lead back, and admittedly pretty volatile challenger scene.
That's very true. And the flip side of that is Tempo Storm, who have already seen, while they do kind of had a very similar style to what Gold Coin United likes to do, they pick compositions, they play to the composition's strengths. They don't necessarily care what the opponent's team is going to be doing. They throw themselves into towers, they utilize chain CC compositions, they utilize the diverse champion pools of Quas, and now I guess Hatrix in the mid lane with his mid lane Nautilus earlier tonight to try to do very similar things, be it a little more haphazardly.
Yeah, so we'll have to see exactly what Gold Coin United wants to do versus Tempo Storm. It can be a little scary where you need to throw a lot of your bans, not at the OP champions, but at the weird stuff that Quas and the rest of the team can end up picking. So Gold Coin United gonna start kind of targeting Quas right away after the Malzahar ban. They go Jax. A little surprising. Not exactly what Quas's favorite champion seemed to have been, but one that he was always pretty good at.
Yeah, it's definitely something he's been content with playing, but has not played quite yet in the Challenger Series. Although the Malzahar has kind of been one of the crutches kind of that multiple pick composition, multiple CC chain composition that Tempo Storm likes to run. The other part really being the Ashe. We'll see if that one gets contested with a first pick or a ban away from that one, but I mean, already the LeBlanc being banned away. You don't want Phoenix on LeBlanc. You don't want Phoenix on basically anything. There were 5 bans, and then he played Orianna, and still.
Yeah, I think maybe targeting the top tier picks like the LeBlanc, like the Jace makes sense against him, but you probably want to hold off after that. He's obviously comfortable on pretty much all the control mages, and has never been one with a small champion pool. He always has another thing prepared. Very hard to target him in the draft. And like you said, Gold Coin United continuing to focus on that bot lane. They ban away the Ashe, another part of the pick team comp that Tempo Storm seems to excel with. Tempo Storm continuing with the kind of standard bans, also banning away the Rengar, heavily banned away on the red side, allowing Gold Coin United to grab the Varus first.
Yeah, so Gold Coin's going to be picking up a very powerful AD carrier for themselves, potentially still one of the best on 7.4. You have no lethality, seen a little bit of a change. And this is very targeted, like you said, at the bottom lane from Tempo Storm. That's where they like to play around. That's where they like to get their advantage. We saw them take extremely early tower. As soon as Ashe hit level 6, they dove down and they took that tower for first tower gold. So continued pressure around the bottom side of the map is the way Tempo Storm plays. Gokon United never really worry about their bottom lane because you got Mad Life down there. You have Mash and Rakara. They swap out. Mash is the one playing most of the games here tonight. They've been rather content just to go even, if not ahead, in their own matchups 2v2.
Right, and I mean, the thing is with a lot of these bot lane focused bans, it does potentially open Quas up for some picks, but he's much more of a counter pick heavy player, so you don't need to ban him too heavily in the first round of the draft. So we'll have to see if that Jax Dam was potentially wasted. We don't know yet. As Tempo Storm instead going with some lethality champions as well, grabbing the Jhin, the other utility AD carry that's available, and then grabbing the Graves, like we said, potentially the strongest jungler on the patch, though there still seems to be a ton of respect for Rengar.
Yeah, so Rengar having been banned away, but the opposite side here, Gokon United, they pick up the other lethality-based jungler in the Kha'Zix pickup, and while the LeBlanc had been banned away after that, no more mid-lane bans, we said potentially the Jace. Phoenix going with the Rise, which we've already seen him do some nasty things with as well.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what Hatrix decides to go with. We know he can play the Orianna, had a really good game on that as well, so we'll have to see if he goes with that. It looks like he's hovering it, does lock it in, so I mean, Phoenix took the Orianna matchup into Rise in his game and crushed that matchup on what should be the losing side. We'll have to see if he can win the matchup on the winning side as well, going up against the Orianna of Hatrix this time.
And as you mentioned, now as we crest into the second ban phase, this will be the one where, you know, do Gokon United go after the unique champion pool of Quas? Do they try to crunch down on the support champion pool? The Malzahar has already been banned away. We haven't seen Zyra whatsoever. She was touched in 7.3, not really touched in 7.4. Karma could potentially wind up being a ban. You know, there's still Lulu on the table, but the Malzahar's been banned away. So the champion pool for the support pool may be being targeted here, as it looks like two top lane bans, a Camille and a Sion.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. Camille coming in from Tempo Storm, even though Quas tends to play it, does not seem to favor it anymore. And Gokon United going after some of the things that Quas had success on, getting rid of that Sion. Quas had played it before. It didn't look great. This week, though, it looked phenomenal, able to start a lot of fights off, was getting a lot of good flanks, and then able to really scare people away from their turrets when they had those Baron buffs. You see the Sion come flying in. It has the Ori ball on top of it and things like that, and it's really scary to actually contest that Sion. So I mean, it's not surprising them banning the way. Tempo Storm also banning away the Thresh, a Mad Life special. Not a huge surprise.
Not at all. Although, by banning away the Sion, that kind of puts Quas onto a limited role for his tank selection. He's not a fan of the Maokai, not a fan of the Nautilus, and we saw it was Hatrix playing the Nautilus in the mid lane, although it is going to be banned away here by the side of GCU. But that leaves the Shen open, which is something that we did see Quas picking up a week or two ago, but that was a game that Tempo Storm wound up losing, and he didn't seem nearly as impactful on that champion.
Well, right, and the other thing, of course, is the fact that the Alawi is free. So there's a potential for Tempo Storm to use this pick on the support and give Quas that last pick counter pick. I'm sure that's what they're likely to do here. Grabbing the Karma, kind of the other A-tier support after the Malzahar. It's often what we see get picked. And with the Thresh banned out, you see Lulu going up a lot in priority. We see the Renekton coming and the Nami, another good sustained mage for the support position. And the Renekton's actually really interesting. Usually you don't see Renekton blind, but in a lot of the stuff that Quas plays, it probably beats them because Renekton is such a strong melee kind of bully. So I actually really like that pick. It's a little risky because you're not quite sure what Quas is going to go with, but assuming he doesn't have a specific Renekton counter pick prepared, this could put a little bit of a wrench in Quas's plans.
We've seen the Quas play the Vladimir earlier on tonight as gets locked in, so woo, profit.
I mean, this is the matchup's changed, obviously.
This is like season 3.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, back in the day, Renekton did have a little bit of kill threat on Vladimir, but if Vladimir made it to, you know, like a little bit past 6, 7, well, level 7, 9, when his Q gets on that really ridiculous cooldown, all of a sudden, Renekton doesn't have the damage to actually kill him anymore. He can sustain through everything. So the meta has changed a lot since then. The champions have changed. I think it's a little disingenuous to say we know how this one's going to play out, but I would bet Renekton still has a lot of pressure on Vladimir early, and we'll have to see if Quas is actually going to be able to survive that lane. You know, depending, especially if Santorin starts visiting up there a lot too.
Yeah, well, Vlad saw a little bit of love. Renekton is rather untouched from like his previous season states, although we have seen Solo be
Fury changes as well.
Well, yeah, there's been a couple, but it's been a while since that's happened. Then again, it's been a while since we've seen this matchup, so this is pretty exciting. You get Tiebreaker
back in the time capsule.
So of course we're gonna be loading onto the Rift for this final game of the evening, the bonus coverage tiebreaker game for second place between Gold Coin United and Tempo Storm. This is basically the decision between who goes in second place. And I mean, to be completely honest, it's who's going to get side selection when we come into the playoffs, because first place will play fourth, and these teams will wind up playing each other again in the bracket stage.
Yeah, it could also be a chance to kind of get some information about how the other team plays. I mean, they will have time to obviously change how they play, but I think against a team like Tempo Storm, as Gold Coin United, who tends to play a little bit more standard, it could be very nice to get a little hands-on experience with Tempo Storm here before they actually play them in the playoffs. Where, like we said, Tempo Storm, they play fast and they're not afraid to pull the trigger. So hopefully Gold Coin United is prepared for that.
Well, experience for both of these teams and experience for the Challenger viewers, as this will be a preview of the matchup we will see in the semifinals on Wednesday next week. Of course, this is the last week of the North American Challenger Series. That's why we're in bonus coverage for this tiebreaker matchup. It's going to be extremely exciting, as we're going to wind up seeing how these teams go forward, who makes it to the promotion tournament, who could potentially get into the LCS. The roster is stacked like this.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. When people saw Gold Coin United and then they saw teams like Envy, maybe some of the other rosters in the LCS, they said, oh my God, Gold Coin United looks like an LCS team. But they have not really been performing quite like it in the Challenger Series, struggling fairly heavily to really beat people the way you thought they should be able to beat them when you looked at the roster.
That's right, and so Gold Coin United, slow and steady, wins the race on their side. Tempo Storm, true to their name, sometimes play very, very quickly, sometimes take it a little bit slow, but CC is definitely the way that they like to play the game. Although very interestingly, with the Ashe off of the table, we see Freeze going for the Jhin, which he has actually not played in the Challenger Series as of yet. It's kind of like a different version of the Ashe. We see the ultimate being used in the same kind of way, utilizing the Deadly Flourish to lock people down, but it's not the same kind of global pressure that we saw in Freeze. Sometimes it's a little bit late to join these fights.
Right, I mean, we talked about how, they like that chain CC comp. They basically went the complete other direction this time around. They have almost no CC in their team comp. Jhin being the only one who's bringing any real hard CC. I mean, unless you count the Orianna Shockwave displacement as hard CC, which I don't think most people would, or the Karma Tether. They basically have a no CC team comp here, which can be notoriously difficult to play. But they do have a lot of damage, so who knows how that's going to go. Gold Coin United having a little bit more standard, but once again, even though the Renekton does fulfill the tank role, it's a lot more of a bruiser tank than a hard CC tank.
It's very true, and we saw Tempo Storm utilizing the Varus in the Karma composition in week number 1 when their hard CC composition kind of got banned out against them and the Ashe was taken away. However, they did not succeed. It was kind of like the budget version, like the Kmart version, where you don't actually wind up getting the same kind of effects. But,
right.
But I mean, we'll have to see how it pans out this time around. Jhin, of course, not necessarily known to be as much of a lane bully as potentially the Ashe or the Varus can be. And with Mad Life having that sustained support, even though the Karma has a decent amount of poke and can really set up those deadly flourishes, this could be a lane that we see a lot of back and forth from.
I expect Gold Coin United's bot lane to come out a little bit ahead. They do have the sustained advantage, like you said, and then just generally Varus is one of the more annoying laners to go against, able to push on a lot of people, able to get a lot of good trades. So Freeze threatening with that 4th crit does a lot of damage. Yeah,
we do see a decent amount of trade going down in this bottom lane extremely early on, but of course the ebb and flow from Nami will be able to sustain himself up. Sentinel in the meantime has gone for both of his buffs. Both of the junglers starting on the red side of the map. Looked like they both went for that Raptor start with the leash over the wall and then going for the full clear on after that. Santorin going to be getting his 2nd buff as well. Sentinel, of course, a little bit healthier, a little bit extra clear coming out from the end of the line ability from Graves. It looks like both of these teams, junglers, going to be mirroring what they do, invading each other's topside jungle, trying to get whatever is left over.
Right, I mean, Santorin did go for the extra camp. He did grab that wolf camp, so he's a little bit further behind, but now they're going to trade Krugs as well. Pretty common jungle pathing over the course of the Challenger Series. We've seen it a couple times tonight. But this time, because they have the pressure on the side of Tempo Storm, Sentinel doesn't need to be scared about a collapse. It just leaves a little Krugs up there for Santorin to have to clean up later.
Little pebbles.
Little pebbles?
That's what I'm calling them from now on. Give you like 10 gold, experience. Just leave a couple of pebbles in the camp. Just let them know that you were there. It's like breadcrumbs.
Ooh, I like this. Quas going with the boot start. This is something that the Vladimir used to do in a lot of the matchups where you had to worry about the melee aggressing onto him. It's a little different than what you're used to seeing, but I do like it because as long as you can kite out the Renekton, you don't have to be too scared.
Yeah, so Quas showing that he knows a thing or two about his Vladimir. Of course, we've already seen it once tonight in the Challenger Series, and he's played it a lot in solo queue. It's been one of those things he kind of keeps on going back to and keeps on maybe insisting that it will work, and it has worked tonight as they took a 2-0 in their series against Delta Fox. This time around, we'll have to see if it winds up going toe-to-toe with the Renekton. Like you said, the kind of retro throwback matchup. Actually going back and upgrading the boots all the way, picking up the Ionian boots of Lucidity very quickly. Yeah,
going for the early cooldown reduction boots is a little surprising, but if he wants to keep teleporting back to lane over and over to keep the pressure up on the map, it does make a little bit of sense because you get the summoner cooldown advantage, and then obviously the most important part of Vlad is being able to sustain off his Qs. Works differently than the pre-rework one where all the Qs were the same. Now getting the Crimson Rush Q is the most important thing you can do, especially if you land it onto a champion. Solo, realizing that he's kind of the aggressor in this matchup, goes for the, like we said, the aggressive double Doran start.
So we'll see. No Fairy Charm this time around from Solo's Renekton.
Nope, not quite. I'm a little disappointed. I thought that really worked out well the last game.
Yeah, definitely wound up refunding him a decent amount of gold when he sold it later on. However, across the board, Double Doran's not the only thing going on in top lane, as Hatrix has gone back and picked that one up for himself. Both of these mid laners not packing teleport. This time it's a cleanse and a heal. So Hatrix maybe getting a little bit worse of these trades. Santorin flashed over the wall, but Sentinel's there as well. But it's already GCU getting the jump on this one. First blood goes over to the Kazakhs as they continue to chase down to that mid lane. But with Nami roaming up, that means Mash is left to dry here. The double root winds up landing. The slow is there as well. The exhaust comes out. Mash still has heal and flash available. Freeze is going to heal just to get the chase down, but Mad Life's kind of coming into the fray here. He's going to ebb and flow and chase them away.
Yeah, despite that fairly aggressive trade in the bot lane, it does not actually result in any kind of summoner advantage. Both the heal and the exhaust blown on both sides, and that was just a big mispositioning by Hatrix. He had his jungler down on that side of the map, so he thought that was his strong side, which in a sense it was, but it was also Gold Coin United's strong side. And like we said, generally Ryze is stronger early on as Phoenix ports into the base, trying to make some aggressive plays.
He gets an early Realm Warp at level 6, but he just teleports into Sentinel and Hatrix and kind of gives away a kill.
That was definitely a little bit of a head scratcher there. Like we said before, if the Ryze has the advantage in the matchups, it can make sense to go for the Realm Warp at 6. He does so, and then he uses it instantly to recall before stepping out of the brush aggressively, as we see Solo trying to make a play on a Sentinel, knowing he has no flash, able to pick up a kill. Really good play by Solo there, actually, able to pick up the cleanup kill onto Sentinel, who was trying to clear a little low health after killing Phoenix. Both teams seem a little out of sorts, maybe a little tired, given that they started their day much earlier.
Yeah, so both of these teams maybe sticking around in situations a little bit longer than they should. On the top side of the map, it is going to result in Gold Coin United being up 2 kills to 1. Although the first blood went down to mid lane, it did wind up going over to Santorin, where very much so liking game number 1. It's not the worst thing in the world, especially if it's going to be Kazakhs picking up this kill.
For sure. I think you can say it would have been worse on Ryze, someone who's supposed to win that matchup, if he gets that early gold advantage of the first blood, able to maybe snowball that matchup even harder. It is still a little scary for Tempo Storm, but nice that they were able to get the shutdown, sitting at only a 500 gold lead. As we see there, yeah, I can't even begin to think of what what Phoenix was thinking on that play.
I guess he just didn't expect Orianna to get back that quickly and maybe be able to blow up Sentinel and just get himself out of that when he did immediately flash after that. So he's going to be summoner spells burned as well as Santorin, letting Sentinel know that his jungle may not be that his own. Phoenix is now, with the help of his jungler, going to be invading the enemy side here as the Hatrix has kind of come up at the same time. Santorin, though, is going to want to jump in out of that command shockwave. He will want to get the smite still down as well, so it's a red buff taken away. Now this jungle and mid synergy coming out from Santorin and Phoenix, this is a lot more aggressive than we've seen this pair in the past.
And I think this is exactly what you want to see out of them, the fact that they do have this advantage around the two of them, and they're using it to try and snowball. Phoenix has done a better job of this in the Challenger Series, and I think you could say he's been known to have in the LCS, where when he gets a lead, he pushes it into the jungle more than he's just pushing it onto his mid lane opponent. So really annoying Sentinel, tried to kill him in his jungle. Obviously, that one didn't quite work out, but showing he's not deterred from that. Once again, helping out Santorin on that red buff steal, then stealing away the Raptors as well, and now opening up on the Hatrix once again.
Yeah, they know he has no flash, so they're going to want to be using the Realm Warp. Doesn't want to be in the cleanse to get out of the Rune Prism, but he's going to wind up going down. Santorin, yet another kill as they continue to harp on Hatrix.
This is going to be a disaster if they don't find a way to stabilize this pretty soon for Tempo Storm. They have the double kill now onto Hatrix, and if they don't find a way to stabilize this, that's going to spread onto the rest of the map really quickly. They have a lot of lanes that are very easy to set up dives for. You have the potential CC coming in from the bot lane, as well as the top lane, where for the most part, Solo has been pushing in Quas over and over again.
Yeah, and Quas has been utilizing that extra cooldown reduction on his teleport from those Ionian boots of Lucidity. We saw him already teleporting back in the lane after picking up his Seeker's Arm Guard. So he will have a little bit of armor in that matchup, and he has kind of stemmed the tide of hitting that level 7. You know, in the previous years, this is the matchup where the Vladimir kind of turned online. We'll have to see if it's wind up being the same here as Solo. He hasn't actually gone back at the double Doran's blade, but Pops the Dominus has a slight level advantage from picking up that kill early on. He's able to bully out Quas.
And the fact that he's able to bully him out without having to burn his TP yet, he can potentially just run back to lane after that now, and maybe use the teleport advantage to force something down on the bot side of the map. Wave's in a good spot for Goldcoin United to set up a slow push and maybe combo in with a 5-man dive. We'll have to see what they choose to do with it.
Well, while the bottom lane is slow pushing, the top lane is pushing in, as is the mid lane against Tempo Storm's side rather aggressively. Phoenix, with, those 2 assists on his side, has gone back and picked up his tier. He's got his Catalyst, has not finished the Rite of Ages yet, but has all the components he needs. Could potentially get that on his next back. He's also going to be going over and picking up his blue buff. Renekton still has yet to go back, but is sitting on a large sum of gold since he picked up that kill when he went back and got the double Dorans to start, and has not gone back since then.
Uh-oh.
And we see Sentinel spots out a ward over here. They are going to see Santorin. Wanted to try to maybe start that dragon up, but
yeah, it was a good idea overall. He dropped some vision down, tries to solo out the Ocean Dragon, but we see that Tempo Storm had vision of that. They were collapsing, and Santorin smartly hops the wall, gets out of there. Does not want to risk giving over a kill.
Not especially when he's this far ahead already, and we now see the continued aggression from Solo onto Quas. So this matchup may be a little bit different than we remember it, but Quas still, just sustaining himself up relatively even in CS, 82 compared to 83. So across his lane opponent, they're keeping relatively even, although there is that kill on Renekton he has yet to cash in on. Sentinel, though,
making his way up, wants to cover for Quas as Solo starts getting a little greedy potentially.
Yeah, the Hemoplague wants it going down. The flash forward there from Quas is not able to land the Crimson Rush as a flash immediately after from Solo, so they're going to trade summoner spells in that top lane. Meanwhile, on the bottom lane,
that opens up bot lane.
Yeah, Freeze has used the Curtain Call just to try to clear some things out, but Santorin and Phoenix arrive. Santorin from the jungle and Phoenix with his ultimate. That's going to be a Nami tidal wave and a killing spree now picked up for Santorin's Kha'Zix.
That's why you have to be so careful when you show around the top side of the map. That opens you up to the mirror play on the bot side, and Goldcoin United punishes Tempo Storm hard. They weren't able to get anything done on the top side. They blew 2 flashes for 1. They have no hearts. They see to lock Solo down, so I'm surprised they thought they could actually turn a kill there, as Solo was still relatively healthy.
He has the slice and dice ability to get out, had his flash up.
Yeah, it was very, very aggressive, and they get punished hard as a result. Give up a kill, give up a dragon, and give up the first turret gold as well.
So that is just a snowball, like a domino effect coming out from Goldcoin United. They get themselves a dragon. They were struggling earlier on in the series, even against Team Gates, to secure those. They get that. The first tower gold winds up going down in the lane that traditionally Tempo Storm focuses down on. They got that. Tempo Storm this game has kind of been focusing more on the top side of the map, and they haven't really getting all too much for it. It seems like they're trying to get Quas out of that lane safe, but at the same time, they've sacrificed the lane that they normally have strength in the bottom side.
I mean, the big problem is the fact that they really do just have 3 losing lanes. You have the Ryze Ori matchup favoring the Ryze. You have the Varus Nami matchup generally favoring them, though it is a little bit closer. And then you have the Renekton Vladimir matchup. Maybe the Renekton can't solo kill the Vladimir, but you're going to have pressure over the entire early game phase, and that opens them up to make plays. We see Solo roam into jungle, pick up a kill. We see him force pressure up to the top side, and then the bot lane with pressure is able to punish as well, because your mid lane has pressure and they roam bottom. So overall, I think the big problem here for Tempo Storm is they just drafted too many losing lanes, maybe focusing a little too hard on the team comp and not thinking about what might go wrong early.
Well, big credits to Solo. He's kind of been, he's been a staple in the challenger scene. He had a little bit of LCS experience. This time around, he's blind picking the Renekton this time. Last game, when he played the Renekton against Team Gates, he was moving around the map, making things happen. Sure, you think the Renekton is the lane bully, can win his matchup, maybe pick up some kills, force down that tower, but he's also utilizing it in a way that he's exerting that pressure he's got in lane to make things happen for the team. And this is working wonders for a Goldcoin United team who has had a couple kind of lackadaisical early game play.
Yeah, and it does help for Goldcoin United, like we said. If you have a problem with early game play generally, having 3 winning lanes is a great way to be able to make some plays in the early game. And they've done a good job with it overall. Obviously, Santorin starting around the mid lane, being able to punish the Orianna for some mispositionings. And then the rest of the team able to collapse as well. And now you see them grouping up around the mid lane. Tarek going to crack their second of the game, grabbing this outer.
Well, that's going to be Mash and Mad Life taking that one for themselves. You have a lethality-based AD carry or a lethality-based marksman in the bottom lane. He's going to be fine in the early to mid-game stages of the game. You have the Renekton, who early game is going to be super powerful, especially if he starts getting ahead. Later game, he'll fall off. That's when the Ryze comes online. So like you said, very solid composition from Goldcoin United, whereas Tempo Storm, they're lacking the things that they have every single time they win, which is multiple ways to chain CC and have a solid way to kind of prolong a state of the game where if they fall behind, they can sit back and farm. At this point, they're already down 4,500 gold.
And here we see Zentinel trying to open up on the Mad Life, forces out the exhaust, but now he's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Ash lands the ultimate, holds him in place for Solo to come in and help clean up the kill.
So that Sentinel just being wrong place, wrong time. Thought he could wind up blowing up Mad Life, but he's able to get himself out of that one. And it is Sentinel that winds up falling. And now we have Santorin posturing for a dive here. Quas knows that he can't really defend against all the members from Goldcoin United. This is going to be the last outer tower on the map for Tempo Storm. This is what Goldcoin United has their sights set on.
And I mean, you got to think Tempo Storm struggling to play a little bit from behind here. You just saw them grab your mid lane turret, and then there's a Nami in your top lane Tri-Brush. Do you really think she's alone? A little too aggressive from Zentinel there. Squas maybe stuck around a little bit too long. He is forced to flash out, and we see Santorin trying to drop on to punish him, not actually able to do so, but is able to force the flash from Quas.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was a lot of damage coming out from Kha'Zix, but a lot of damage coming out from Vladimir onto the, the very damage-oriented jungle pickup from the Kha'Zix, but it is just enough to force them away from that top lane tower. That's going to be its third one of the game, and Goldcoin United going for Rift Herald.
Perfect way to close out the Challenger Series. Last game of the regular season. We're seeing a Rift Herald go down.
This is something that you and I love from the Campus Series. It's kind of like the mascot of the Campus Series. They always wind up going and trying to exert pressure and take the Rift Herald. This time it's going on the solo. Hey, we were joking about it in the series against Team Gates. It would have been great for Renekton to have. Now he's got it.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be huge. It helps you in a matchup that you might have to worry about getting outscaled. Maybe not right now because you are up a fair amount of global gold, having taken all 3 outer turrets down. But if you want to push that lead even harder, Glimpse of the Void is a great way to do that.
And it's going to be on him for 20 minutes, so until about the 35-minute mark, that's going to be a Renekton that's going to be extremely difficult to deal with, especially in a 1v1 kind of split push scenario. So Tempo Storm got their backs against the wall on this, and this is a tiebreaker match. It's only a best of 1, so whoever wins this one is going to be going in second place. Basically means it's going to be, they're going to get side selection for the semifinal next Wednesday, where these two teams will square off again. And if you've already taken like a 1-game victory and you're going in with an advantage, knowing that you have side selection, knowing that you've beaten this team already before when it came down to it, when it mattered, it's going to be a huge mental advantage coming into next week.
For sure, and it shows that, I think you could say Tempo Storm got a little outdrafted this game. A lot of the picks that they went for, not the best in their particular matchups in the early game, so I wouldn't read too far into this if I'm Tempo Storm. Just have to relook at your priorities and figure out what to do. But, the game's not over yet. It is 6,000 gold at only 16 minutes in. It is very hard to recover from this position, especially with a team comp with no hard CC. You have no way to pick off someone for mispositioning. Tempo Storm has a lot of tools to punish you. They have a Ryze, they have a Varus, they got a Nami, a lot of CC available to them.
You do have a lot of damage, though, and you have ways to position around objective fights if you want. But the curtain call being opened up, there's a Realm Warp coming in right there. He's going to wind up stopping the curtain call, so that's going to be a tower secured straight away for Goldcoin United. They're going to be taking down the 4th one of the game in the mid lane. And as just mentioning before, Tempo Storm, they have ways to win fights around objectives, but with the gold deficit at the point it is, they don't have the damage to necessarily do it unless they're able to trap Goldcoin United. And using things like the Realm Warp to kind of zone people away and stop sort of that engage is the way that Goldcoin United can secure those objectives.
Yeah, I mean, playing a no CC, no real frontline team comp around objectives can be very hard because you don't have anyone to face check and actually contest vision appropriately, as well as like not having great tools for setting up fights. So it is very, very difficult to play. It's still possible, but often you need to be in an even or gold lead situation where you're able to actually set up first or something like that. Here, Tempo Storm's playing from behind. It's very hard to do so, as we see Goldcoin United grab their second Ocean Dragon uncontested.
Yep, so that's Goldcoin United controlling more dragons than they did in their series against Tempo Storm, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about how, we heard Santorin say on the desk during the interview earlier that he wishes their dragon control was a little bit better. They're doing better this game, though I would hope so, given how it's going.
Well, 3-0-0 onto Santorin's Kha'Zix. That's the way he was against Tempo Storm as well. As now it looks like they're going to try to catch Goldcoin United solo out here, but the end of the line meets the side of the wall right there. And Zentil's not able to get the damage down.
Yep, good try. Had the red buff slow going, but not actually able to really convert onto the Renekton. And I don't think it would have been smart to force too hard there. It would have taken a while to kill him, and who knows, maybe someone's able to collapse on you. They don't have the best vision anywhere past the river, and that's where that chase would have led them.
That's right, so Goldcoin United taking it slow and steady, just like they normally do. Although 18 minutes into the game, this is a lot quicker pace than we're used to seeing them. We have a Black Cleaver Renekton with a Hex Drinker picked up on the Kha'Zix. We have a Phoenix split pushing in the top lane of the Rod of Ages and an Archangel staff, although the flash away from the command shockwave, some good moves being put on there from Phoenix as he's going to want to get in the burst of speed and get himself out of a sticky situation.
That was very close to having that shockwave hit. If that lands, Phoenix is dead. They have to be careful here, pressuring around all 3 lanes at once. Their vision in the top side is actually not that good, and they need to work on getting that ward line up a little bit more, control those 2 points where you see Tempo Storm actually having some control wards down right now. Got to give Tempo Storm some credit. They are doing a good job contesting vision, especially around that top side. But like we said, it's just a little too difficult to try and play out right now.
Yeah, and meantime, though, Gold Coin United still have a very powerful solo Renekton in the bottom side of the map, split pushing to his heart's content. Quas was up in the top lane at the same time, so he wasn't able to really contest the Renekton down on the bottom side of the map. It's a Glimpse of the Void on a 2-0-0 Renekton. He's got himself pretty much even in CS with the Vladimir, so it's going to be a very difficult thing to have to deal with, especially for like the next, 15 or so minutes when he's still got the Glimpse of the Void buff.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about how close this game is. As Sentinel, he's almost going to get exploded. Right now, Santorin flashes in to finish him off, and Gold Coin United, Baron buff just spawned. You just killed the jungler. You have 30 seconds as they're
not done yet, though.
Fight. Yeah,
Santorin's still going to chase after this one. Hatrick's going to use the command shockwave. Has to flash away immediately as Solo's going to be coming in from the side. The exhaust gets put down. The curtain call comes out, and it looks like Gold Coin United, they're going to be just posturing around this tower, waiting for that curtain call to run out. They're going to be getting another objective on the map.
Overall, a great play for Gold Coin United, able to secure a kill onto Sentinel and then continue that pressure up to the top side, grabbing their second inner turret of the game. It's now 5 turrets to 0. We're talking about almost a no-hitter. Tom, this time they have 1 kill but no turrets. Is this also a no-hitter? There are a lot of different kinds of no-hitters in League of Legends.
I had to think of a good term for this one. Maybe this is like a shutout instead of a no-hitter. Just switching terminology from different kinds of sports.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I can't think of a good one off the top of my head. Come back to me in like 5 minutes. I'll think of it.
All right, you spend 5 minutes thinking, I'll solo pass. Let's go.
I don't know about that one, although Gold Coin United in this game looking very, very poised. Like you mentioned, the Baron buff is still alive. They've gotten great vision around their objectives. It's kind of been one of the strong points of their team in general is their solid vision control. This time around, they've taken it extremely early on. They're being extremely aggressive with the way that they're shoving it into the top side of the map. And for Sentinel, I mean, he wound up dying by his red buff over there. That was the second time he's died in his own top side jungle while the enemy was putting vision down.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about earlier in the night how difficult it can be to play a jungler on a team that is generally losing. We talk about Gold Coin United having 3 winning lanes this time, very difficult to get much done as the jungler for Sentinel. Though, you can say he might have made some questionable decisions on his own. We see him there camping the brush, trying to burst out Mad Life, but Mad Life does not take too much damage and has a lot of sustain. Double Ocean Drake, as well as being a Nami. Gonna be pretty hard to blow him up, as we see Phoenix porting into the Baron. He missed it. Changed his mind, baited Santorin.
Decided against it, and he's like, not today. Although, Gold Coin United, like I mentioned, being very aggressive the way they're not only establishing vision, but being extremely good at denying the vision as well. So that will let Phoenix eventually walk around the side of the Baron pit here as he and Santorin are going to start up and duo this Baron. Tempo Storm, in the meantime, are completely occupied in this mid lane area. So although Mash and Mad Life going to be taking a little bit of damage from that curtain call.
Good job disengaging.
Yeah, they've disengaged. They didn't spend anything for it. Renekton's pushing on the bottom side of the map. There's no way Tempo Storm knows this is happening. A Baron buff for free for Gold Coin United.
A great Baron sneak overall. Having Mash and Mad Life still positioning aggressively around the mid lane can be a little dangerous, as you saw Tempo Storm try and open up, but well played by the bot lane to disengage that and give Santorin and Phoenix enough time to finish off Baron. Even if they probably did get picked there, I bet Phoenix and Santorin just stay and finish off that Baron anyways. You're fine trading your bot lane for that one.
Yeah.
And now with this Baron buff and the fact that they're still up a ton of pressure, you can expect to see them potentially start cracking this inhibitor turret line.
Especially with Solo's Renekton now. He's extremely purple. He's got the Glimpse of the Void buff. He's got the Baron buff. He's going to have minions shoving with him.
He's got the Hex Drinker.
It's a full wall of the Malmortius.
Full wall, yeah, that's what I meant by purple.
Same thing with Kha'Zix, so they got the purple theme going down. Rise.
I mean, yeah, Rise, you can go down the list. You got the Edge of Night and Ghostblade as well. Why is purple so strong in this game?
I don't know. Maybe that's why Lulu's been popping back up in the metagame. She's favorite color is purple.
She's not that strong right now.
Well, I mean, do you see her against the Malzahar? If he has Zeyzal from E United, though, undefeated. He's 5-0 on that champion.
I'm not saying it's bad.
Everyone else.
I'm just saying it's not like Edge of Night level. All right, that's all I'm saying.
Is that the scale from like 1 to Edge of Night? How powerful is this? Is Mad Life gonna check that brush with the bubble there. He's gonna get pulled back in by the shockwave, but Santorin's there leaping into the fray as well as Phoenix. They're gonna wind up locking down on the quad. He is gonna pop the Zhonya's hourglass. Is he gonna be able to flash out and stay alive? Looks like it might be yes, but Sentinel takes a large brunt of damage there from the rest of Goldcoin United. Baron buff working super strong as 4 members on the bottom side from GCU. Renekton is still solo pushing that top lane, working away on an inhibitor tower.
You know you're in a rough spot when your 2 damage-oriented solo laners cannot blow up the enemy support. Yeah, you know you're not in a great spot at that point. And with that sustain that they have available through all the Ocean Dragons and Nami herself, Goldcoin United does not actually need to back off that push despite how many resources Tempo Storm used there.
So Goldcoin United taking down another outer tower. That is the 6th and final one, as they're going to be opened up on by a curtain call, but at the same time, Renekton's pushing the top lane. He takes that inhibitor tower. Goldcoin United once again just back away, playing this one calm, cool, and collected, and just running Tempo Storm all over the map.
You see Quas and the rest of Tempo Storm maybe trying to turn some attention onto Solo. He starts running away. Gets rooted up, but the rest of the team's already turned around at that point as Goldcoin United.
You say, by the way, GCU still in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I mean, Tempo Storm getting run a little bit around the map here, though, but can't say anything too bad about them there. They're already so far behind that at this point, it's going to be very hard to actually contest any of these objectives.
Yeah, so that's already going to be the bottom lane inhibitor taking about half of its HP and damage, and that's just in the time it takes Tempo Storm to kind of react to this one. They're still poking and prodding away. The second inhibitor is going to wind up falling here. Goldcoin United, solid advantages off of that Baron buff push. Over 13,000 gold in the lead at 25 minutes in. I mean, we joke about Game 1 Goldcoin United being lukewarm, Game 2 kind of being on point. Game 3 Goldcoin United.
That's scary. Heading into the playoffs, Tom. Goldcoin United's in a great position. As long as these series go a little long, just gotta hope that their Game 2 can match up against some of the other top tier teams. It looks like it's going to match up just fine versus Tempo Storm based off this game, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be another Dragon going the way of Goldcoin United. An Infernal Drake will go and be the 3rd one of the game for them. Tempo Storm are just trapped inside of their own base. They've been bled out of vision. Like you said, they were doing a good job in the early game, kind of fighting for the vision and trying to deny it. But at this point in time, Goldcoin United, they're just encroaching a little bit too far forward. Tempo Storm have been getting picked out when they're going to kind of go for this counter vision. Now that it's completely on their side of the map. And it just kind of seems like you said, with this no CC composition, they're having an extremely hard time playing from behind.
Yeah, it's always hard to play from behind in general, but when you don't have, you know, a single thing that you can say, oh, let's go for this kind of play. We have a Rengar Ori, maybe we can pick somebody off in their 1-3-1. Let's do that. I mean, you see their attempts to try and pick off the Renekton. It's basically throw a bunch of damage at him. Oh, he didn't die.
Didn't work.
Yeah. So it's very hard to find a winning play for them. They did a good job looking for it. They tried those plays on the Quash. They tried some picks on the Madlick. They tried setting up vision in certain situations and trying to hope someone from Goldcoin United face checks. The problem is, even though they were face checking, they couldn't kill anyone.
No, and Tempo Storm, this is the second time we kind of seen them struggle with a lack of CC in their composition. We saw them run a Sivir comp against, I believe it was a poke composition executed by Big God's Jackals. That was the game where Chris stepped in and ran the Jace composition, and Big God slowly bled Tempo Storm out of that game. Even though Tempo Storm got to the later stages of the game, 35+ minutes with Sivir Ricochet crits going all over the place, they weren't able to get themselves out of that gold deficit, and it was Big God Jackals taking a 1-1 series against them there. This time around in this tiebreaker match, it looks like Goldcoin United is going to be able to do the same thing and bleed them out. They did wind up forcing the flash out there, as it does look like that she's going to have to get away from that one, but another inhibitor is going to wind up falling for the side of GCU. That's going to be the second one falling. The super minions already wailing away on that Nexus tower in the bottom lane, and with the advantages that GCU has, Tempo Storm's going to be extremely hard pressed to defend, let alone even try to start the magic comeback.
Yeah, Phoenix playing 1v5 defense, allowing his team to grab the last inhibitor turret on the side of Tempo Storm, also breaking the inhibitor. There's going to be double super minions coming in from every single lane now. Very hard to defend, borderline impossible. I think this one's pretty much over, as Phoenix is going to get the best of his former teammate in Quas this game. Looks like Goldcoin United might finish the season 2nd place overall.
That's true. It's 1 place lower than a lot of people have pegged them for. Although, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, they've been able to turn it on right in time, right in prime playoff position, and it will be Chain of Corruption coming out there from Mash. It looks like Dental's going to get locked up. He's going to get taken down, and with that going down, it looks like it is also going to be the base for Tempo Storm that will fall. Command Shockwave hits, but there's just not enough damage. A Nami tidal wave will sink all of the hopes from Tempo Storm of coming back in this game, and it's going to be Goldcoin United, slow and steady, wins the race in the first series. This game, under 30 minutes, they take down the Nexus, they take down Tempo Storm, and they will take second place.
I mean, we talk about peaking pretty often in sports and making sure that you're hitting your highest form right at the end of the season. Seems like Gold Coin United might be along that track where they were struggling early. They didn't have Mad Life for the first week. Second week he's in. They're mixing and matching AD carries, find out who works best for him. Looks like they've settled on to Mash Me. It looks like the team has figured out a play style that works for them. Generally reserved, but when they get huge leads like have in this game, they're not afraid to blow it open.
Yeah, and we saw a specific synergy kind of developing between Phoenix and Santorin over the courses, and Santorin in solo as well on the top side of the map. So just, I guess, the synergy between Santorin and his solo laners has really been established. It took a little while for the bottom side of the map to do it. We saw Santorin and Mad Life like in weeks 3 and 4 establishing vision control synergy and working together to get that down pat. But now that it's also working with their solo laners and they're moving together kind of as a unit, they look like a very deadly squad to deal with.
Yeah, and I think you have to give them some credit for their drafts as well. There's not been too many times where they seem super outdrafted. There's the occasional time where they end up with a team comp that doesn't quite work as well as the enemy teams, but that generally happens. That happens pretty much everyone in the league. And I think here you can see that's why Tempo Storm, they did not end up with something that they're used to playing. They didn't have pressure in basically any lane. They didn't have hard CC, which is something that it seems like the team honestly crutches on a little bit too hard. And so I think Tempo Storm, this is actually a good loss for them to take in a sense where they got exposed in some of their weaknesses and things that they can shore up heading into the actual playoffs.
Yeah, as far as Tempo Storm goes, a lot of this kind of CC-based champions that they usually pick up. We saw the Malzahar and Ashe band away in the first phase. The Scion's kind of the CC tank that we see Quas defaulting to. And then the Nautilus, which Quas doesn't necessarily play it. We saw Hatrix playing in the first game of their series against Delta Fox to great effect. So all of those CC options are removed. They had to go for the Jhin, which is something Freeze hasn't played yet in the NACS scene. So they had a lot of options removed from them. And like we said before, they just kind of looked a little bit lost what to do once they didn't get those early advantages they're used to.
Yeah, and I think I think Tempo Storm showed that when they have a team comp that they're comfortable on, they show that they're extremely confident at actually being able to go and kind of play out the win conditions for that team comp. But when they get forced, they get their priority champions taken away. They're not a team that seems to adapt particularly well. Like I said, I didn't really like the draft. And I didn't like some of the plays that they're trying to force either this game. Though, like we said, it is hard to ultimately play a game out with 3 losing lanes.
Yeah, that's very true. And although Tempo Storm wound up falling to Gold Coin United in this tiebreaker, we'll see them again next week because, of course, that's going to shore up the standings now. So while tonight completes our regular season for the Springs with the Challenger Series, let's see how everything panned out across the board. With their sweep tonight, E United solidified their first place finish heading into the playoffs, and we just saw Gold Coin United defeat Tempo Storm to earn second place, while Big God's Jackals claims the last playoff seed. That unfortunately means that Delta Fox and Team Gates have completed their Challenger run for now, but let's get a look at our playoff picture heading into the best of 5 semifinals next week. Gold Coin United and Tempo Storm are going to wind up rematching on Wednesday, and that means that the first seed of E United will be facing off again against Big God's Jackals on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to obviously particularly have my eye on the Gold Coin United Tempo Storm matchup. We saw them play just now, and it seemed like Gold Coin United definitely had the better edge on them. But we talk about Tempo Storm being that kind of weird team that they'll pull something out of their pockets, and you give them an extra week to prepare for Gold Coin United. I think they're a team that can use that week extremely well to prepare. Whereas on the flip side, E United versus Big God Jackals, I think E United just looks like a much more complete team right now. They show that they can play from behind. They play standard fairly well. They have good mid-jungle synergy and 2 very solid rookies in Licorice and Deathly.
Yeah, and if you guys were hyped up for all the bonus coverage we had tonight, you don't have to wait until next week for more League of Legends action because the NALCS returns this Friday as Immortals take on Team Liquid in the first match of the night.
And they'll be followed by Phoenix 1 versus CLG, including an alternative stream look at the Stix A bottom lane matchup versus Arrow. And I'll be there, as well as Freak and Freeze, providing some in-depth analysis on that matchup, so be sure to tune in for that one.
That'll be super exciting. I can't wait to hear
I can't wait to talk about it. I love Arrow and I love Stix A, and they play actually pretty different, despite probably being the first and second best AD carries in the league, so I'm really excited to talk about that one.
All right, well, make sure, of course, you tune into that one on Friday. That's going to be it from us tonight. So from myself, Mark, and the entire Challenger broadcast crew, thanks for watching, including the bonus coverage, and we'll see you next week.
then sealing away the Raptors as well, and now opening up on the hat tricks once again.
Yeah, they know
no
he
summoners
has no
still.
flash, so they're going to want to be using the Realm Warp. Doesn't want to be in the cleanse to get out of the Rune Prism, but he's going to want it going down. Freeze has used the Curtain Call just to try to clear some things out, but Santorin and Phoenix arrive. Santorin from the jungle, and Phoenix with his ultimate. That's going to be a Nami tidal wave and a killing spree now picked up for Santorin's Kaze.
And here we see Zenil trying to open up on the Mad Life, forces out the exhaust, but now he's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Ash lands the ultimate, holds him in place for Solo to come in and help clean up the kill.
It looks like Denzel's going to get locked up. He's going to get taken down. And with that going down, it looks like it is also going to be the base for Tempo Storm that will fall. Command Shockwave hits, but there's just not enough damage. A Nami tidal wave will sink all of the hopes from Tempo Storm of coming back in this game. And it's going to be Gold Coin United